guys ready for the warm morning welcome? Jock, they don't know what's coming. Well, by tomorrow you know exactly what's coming. Okay, so I'm expecting the same amount of energy that I'm going to exert, I'm going to expect it back. Do we have a deal? What's up, world changers? Okay, let's do that again. Can we have some energy, guys? Okay, guys, very, very warm welcome for this morning. My apologies for starting at this time. Normally, I'm very strict on starting at 9, but we just had to move a few things around and get things going. But do not fret, do not fear. Whatever time we lose, we will make up at the end. My name is Franco, or anything that starts with a F, a R, a A, and an N. Fran, France, Frank, Franco, Francisco. Whatever you F, R, A, and an N, Ruth, I will respond, okay? Okay? Franco. James Franco. Guys, it's a big honor and a privilege to stand in front of you guys this morning, because if you want to know about something, okay, you have to read about it, right? If you want to understand something, so if you want to know something, read about it. If you want to understand something, you have to write about it. And if you really want to become a master at something, you have to teach it. So I have done my due diligence on my part. I've done my first part. I've done my second part. And now I am the most luckiest guy in the room because you guys are helping me to fulfill my phase 3. Okay? Because without you guys, I won't be able to teach it. So I'm just fulfilling my phase 3 with you guys sitting in front of me today. And very often, I am the person that walks out with the most information and insights at the end of these courses. Well, to my perspective, that is the case. And it is a big honor and a privilege to share the room with you guys, because we are going to walk a journey in the next 10 days, and we're going to get to know each other on a whole another level. And I can promise you that what will happen in these 4 walls in the next 10 days or 7 days, I can promise you it's going to change your life. Whether you want it or not, it's going to. So I do not want you to put on your seatbelt. I want you to unbuckle your seatbelt. But I do want you to put on your helmet, because this is going to be a bumpy ride, but without letting go, without taking the risk of saying, okay, yeah, I'm going to go. Because for 25, 32, 45 years in your life, you had your seatbelt on, and today you finally decided, or maybe when you decided that you want to do the course, you decided, I'm going to unbuckle this thing and see what can happen with my life. So hold on tight, because this is going to be awesome. Okay, before we're going to start the whole course, the insights, the knowledge, the whatever you want to call it, I would love each and every one of you guys just to quickly just share your name, what you do for a living, and the reason why you are doing this course. Ladies and gents, the one and only Michelle! Okay, now, why is this guy shouting your name, pointing at you, looking you in the eye and shouting your name? Because when last did someone do that? Recognition, grown men, babies cry for it and grown men die for it. Okay? And recognition is one of the fundamental basic human needs we want as human beings, that's driven by emotion, that wants to survive in a world that we are currently living in. And I don't know about you, but it's really, really nice to get recognition for something you have done, especially when they give you the right amount of recognition for the type and quality of work that you've done. Am I right? So the other thing is, you might not know, the person sitting to the front, to the left, to the right, or to the back of you today might just have the keys that is going to unlock a door in your life. You have no idea how many people we have literally connected, not directly, but indirectly, through doing just a quick little introduction, what you do for a living, introducing each other, and have done big business from there. So you never know who's sitting next to you, and that is why I just love people and meeting new people and trying to uncover what drives people and what do they do and why do they do it, and I can assume that you guys are very similar into that type of behavior and thought patterns and whatever the case might be. So you never know who's that person sitting to the left or to the right. You never know what person can do what for you, and very often it's the people we least expect that opens up or that gives us the biggest breakthroughs. And I mean, we've experienced that before. Okay, or is it just me? Oh, okay, so just a little bit about me and what I do, just to give you guys an idea of why I would say the things that I say, why I would say it in the way that I say it, and why I would say the specific things in the order that I say it. So when I was about 11, 12 years old, I had this friend, and his name was Jonathan. Now, well, his name is probably still Jonathan. And me and Jonathan, we started Chucky's Car Wash. Now, Chucky's Car Wash was our very first business. I was 11 years old, 12 years old. Since then, I was always fascinated by making money, just doing whatever I could to make more money. And from Jonathan, I learned, you can buy a certain amount of car wash materials at a certain price. You can wash X amount of cars, make X amount of profit per car, which means if you want to earn 1,000 Rand a month and you want to split it 500, we need to wash X amount of cars. It's going to take us X amount of time, and then we will make X amount of money. And from Jonathan, I learned certain systems and certain things. And throughout my life, I always did just stuff to make money, whatever it was. And when I was about 18 years old, I was still interested in making money, waitering since I was 16, 17, and 18 years old, just to get pocket money. But when I was 18, my focus shifted from making money. Well, it's always on making money, but I mean, it shifted as well to girls. And I bought myself a book on how to get girls and how to persuade and influence women, Michelle, and how you can use certain techniques and skills to basically, get what you want. And I was 18 years old, and I read this book before matric vacation. This was the first book I ever bought myself, ever. So I read this book, and in this book I read about, I'm 18 years old, I'm reading about neuro-linguistic programming, and I'm like, wow, this is almost like the silver bullet to mind hacking people. And I start to test out these techniques, Ruth, and I start to get phenomenal results. And I'm like, and I am astounded by the simplicity of what you can do, or of what you should do, but the impact that it has. I was astounded by the simplicity, but the impact it can have. Yes, obviously, there's a few things and sequences and stuff involved to get certain things to happen, but there's basic evolutionary instincts that is instilled into us, that has been instilled into us for thousands of years, and which is applicable on every single human being. These stuff do not work only if you're dead. When does this work? When you're alive. Okay? So and when I started realizing how you can start to apply certain methodologies, I was astounded. So what happened was, I went out after school, I studied law, got my law degree. Yes, I did get my law degree. But while I still studied, I got involved in sales, always wanting to make money. And I was fortunate enough in that stage to be the youngest guy in that company to reach that level. And because of that, they started giving me opportunity to start to do talks and just say what I've done and how I do it and blah, blah, blah in sales. And it was in that moment when I started sharing with people, when I started to feel what it is to come alive. Some people call it, Stephen Kotler calls it flow state. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, I think he's the first person that started writing about flow state. It's those moments when you're fully absorbed. It's when it's total absorption. It's almost like an out-of-body experience. It's like you get energy from doing it, although it takes physical energy, but it also gives you energy. You are feeling more empowered after you do that. And I started for the very first time in my life, I felt for about 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, I felt the extreme sense of meaning and fulfillment. And that's when I realized, hang on, there's something here that I love and that I want to pursue. And since then, I still have the opportunity to speak in front of people like you today. And I'm blessed and fortunate enough to still do that. And I've calculated the other day, I've spent over 1,200 hours doing coaching, one-on-one coaching, facilitating, training talks. That equates the calculation, the accumulation of all those hours is about to 1,200 hours, which is quite a lot, standing in front of people. And I do not say this to impress you guys. I'm saying this to impress upon you what can happen when you start following your curiosity. When you start digging down into the rabbit hole, when you start asking the right questions, and when you start saying, you know what, I'm going to unbuckle my seatbelt, I'm going to dive into this, and I'm going to pursue this with everything inside of me, although I had a law degree. And here I am standing in front of you guys today, and I guess you can see that this is my oxygen. This is what I live for, and I make you a deal today. I am, for the next 10 days, going to give you my absolutely everything. And I back myself to say that I'm going to give you a whole lot of value. But I beg of you as well, because I do a far better job when I get like interaction and stuff. So if I can get that interaction, or not just that interaction, but just that energy of expecting something, because it's all about the mindset. I can either go into the lair, wanting to slay the dragon, voluntarily. I will walk with a different posture as when the dragon comes to me and I need to slay the dragon. It's the exact same action. The mindset of I'm going to do this voluntarily versus it's coming towards me is two completely different things. How you carry yourself, how you think, how you act. So that's just the mindset. So I'm asking of you guys to have that expected mindset, because a parachute only works once it's open. So I'm asking you guys to open up your parachutes so that it can get some new information flowing. And I'm not going to say anything new, miraculous, give you new miraculous information. Well, maybe I will. But in my mind, I'm just going to say maybe something today in a different way, or maybe just the same flippant thing, Ernest, that you've heard 100 times before, that just sinks in today, and that just makes sense. With who has that happened before? You've listened to a certain tape or a certain thing or whatever the case might be, and then just one day, boop, you listen to that thing. You can almost recite the whole thing, but then just one day you listen to that thing and like, boop, it hits you. And you're like, oh my word. For the past year, 5 months, I've been listening to this thing, and now I listen to it again and I completely understand it. Now, that's most probably what's going to happen today. So I want you guys to come up with big hearts, big open expectations, because I always say if you're going to come with a little cup, I'm going to fill your cup. I promise you I'm going to fill your cup. If you're going to come with a massive urn, I promise you I'm going to fill your urn. Okay? This guy has a lot of energy. Okay? And I'm going to exude it to you. So I'm looking forward to spending this time with you guys, especially with what we're going to teach you guys, the journey you're going to go on, and the things you're going to discover about yourself. Now, starting off, there's a story that I would like to share with you guys, and that is about the British cycling team. Now, the British cycling team in 110 years was so bad in cycling that they could not win one Tour de France victory in 110 years. They only won one gold medal in 110 years, since 1907. In 2003, a guy took over. Well, guys, let me give you an idea how bad the British cycling team was. They were so bad that British bicycle manufacturers did not want the British cycling team to ride with their bikes because they were afraid it's going to hurt sales and their reputation. That's bad. Yeah, guys, so can we have an order of like 100 bikes? Sorry, from where are you phoning? We're phoning here from London. Yeah, sorry, we're out of stock. So that was quite bad. So in 2003, a guy named Dave Brailsford took over, and he believed in something called the aggregation of marginal gains, which simply states, if you break down all of the components of a specific behavior, which is cycling or activity, so if you break down the components of what cycling is into its different components, you look into each component and see how you can increase each component of what it takes to cycle a bike and increase each one of those components by 1%, well, what can happen? And James, you know what happened was they started with simple things that you would suggest, that you would assume. They made the seat more comfortable. They started rubbing alcohol on the tires so that the riders get a better grip on the road. They started using wind tunnels to test the fabric to see which type of fabric is the least wind resistant, and they switched from outdoor cycling gear to indoor cycling gear. They tested different massage gels to see which massage gel gets the fastest recovery. They even got people to measure their posture and track their posture to make certain pillows for them so that they can have the best night's rest when they do sleep. They used electrically heated overshorts to keep their muscles warm when they cycle. They used biofeedback monitors to get the feedback from their heart and whatever the case might be when they exercise. They even hired in a surgeon to show them how to properly wash their hands so that they have the least likelihood of catching a cold. They even went as far as painting the complete inside of the tour bus completely white so that it was easier to spot dust particles, so that those dust particles will not affect the riders and the bicycles on the day of the race, which also psychologically made them more attentive. Now, you might think a few things that they've done, which is, well, I don't know if that specific thing will give you that big of a result, but maybe that will. Well, the results came far quicker than you can ever possibly imagine, Ruth. Only 5 years after Dave Brailsford took over, in the 2008 Olympics, they won 60% of the gold medals available. 4 years later, in the 2012 Olympics, they won, or they set, 9 Olympic records and 7 world records. 9 Olympic records and 7 world records. That same year, Bradley Higgins became the first Brit to win the Tour de France. A year later, his teammate Chris Froome went on to win in 2015, 16 and 17. From 2007 to 2017, the British cycling team, in a span of 10 years, won 178 world championships. They won 66 gold medals, Olympic and Paralympic gold medals, as well as 6 Tour de France victories in 10 years. Still today, that is recognized as the most successful cycling stint in the cycling decade in the history of cycling. Still today, that is recognized as the most successful decade in cycling. Small little changes and just taking every single component and increasing them by 1%. What are some of the things that you have in your life that you are overlooking because we've done it so many times that we don't even pay attention to it anymore? We're not even consciously aware of what we are doing, and we are completely missing components that we can increase by 1% that will give us an aggregation of one massive result. And the result spoke for itself with the British cycling team. What effects and what things and results can you have in your life when you start breaking down some of the components in your life, start looking at it with a conscious intention to understand what you're doing, to start knowing to yourself that you can start increasing all of these components by 1%. Karen, what would be the result of that be? Can you just imagine that? Who of you guys in this room are sitting here and you believe that you can be 30% better than what you are today? Okay, no hesitation from all of you, immediately. Now, I want to ask you, what specifically, James, is the reason why you are not there? What specifically is the reason why you are not functioning at 30% better if you truly and honestly believe within your soul, in your deepest soul, that you can be 30% better? What specifically needs to happen, Lindiwe, for you to say, you know what, I want to increase myself and increase my potential to 30%? What specific things, Ruth, do you need to stop doing for you to get to that 30%? And that's only asking 30%. What about just 1%? God forbid, tomorrow 2% better. Don't compare yourself to where other people are today. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Because at the end of the day, James, that's the only thing that matters, right? So I want to start making you guys more consciously aware of some of the things that's going on in your life. What's going to happen? Let me tell you what's going to happen in the next 10 days. There's going to be certain things and there's going to be certain stuff that's going to surface from your subconscious mind that you're going to like, maybe this is something I need to look at. Maybe this is something I need to look at. Because the ability, we are the only creatures in this world, animals or beings, whatever you believe now, you believe in all those different beliefs of the beliefs and the beliefs. We're the only species, incredible being in this world that have a consciousness. We have consciousness. We have the ability to go outside of ourselves. We have the ability to James, you have the ability right now to close your eyes, to take yourself out of yourself, to put yourself in the view of that alarm and look at yourself. Look at how you interacted 10 minutes ago with Michelle. And you can look at yourself. Excuse me. You can look at an event that happened when you got offended, when your brother or your sister or your friend said this and this, and you got offended, and you now can look at that a day later and ask yourself, what is the specific reason I acted in that certain way when that person said that thing? And we can go outside of ourselves and we can look at ourselves. And where consciousness comes from is still almost like a mystery today. It's like still no one can actually pinpoint where consciousness actually comes from. It's the ability to have self-awareness. It's the ability to not be yourself. It's the ability to not be attached to everything you are, if you get what I'm saying. When somebody speaks to you, they're speaking to the physical flesh. They're not speaking to you don't have to get offended by whatever they are saying. Yes, every single person does. I do get offended, and I am also sensitive in certain contexts. But we have the ability to start looking at those things. And it is through that, if you're honest with yourself, because the only way that you can increase yourself and build self-awareness is through one thing and one thing alone. Truth. Because truth is the shortest and the straightest distance between two people or things. So if I say, hey, you know what, I'm going to take personal responsibility for whatever I've done. I want more self-awareness. If I do a specific behavior or activity or task, and I have a mentor or somebody that I have given the permission to talk into my life, if they tell me, yeah, you know what, Franco, you screwed up there and there and there and there and there, okay, I can just take it and I can make it mine. But how many of us have in the past, you know, Maudi, when you want to say something to your friend, it's like, but you're like, you know, you're afraid you're going to hurt her feelings. And so what you do is we start here and we're like, yes, yeah, the other day, and when you did that, and we go there, and we soften it up a bit there, and we go there, and eventually we go there, and eventually and then just before we say, we just take them back, okay, soften it up, and then we give them the truth.
That's one thing I don't suffer from.
That's one thing. That's fantastic news.
Most people don't like me for it, but
absolutely, absolutely. And it's almost like once people actually know how you are, because I'm like that as well, very straight, honest, straight shooter, it actually makes the relationship far easier. But that's the problem. Very often people are not able, because once again, we're so flip and offended when somebody says something. But what happens if I say, you know what, I am open. I've actually got a keynote talk on this called Proactive Experience. Okay, a lot of people, Franco, I've been working for this company for 20 years, man, I want an increase. No, Rodrigo, you only worked for the company 20 years, only repeated 1 year, repeated 20 times. Rodrigo. So a lot of us think that, yeah, time in a company or time on earth is, this is my experience, I'm 55, James, I'm 55, man. Have you seen, you haven't seen what I've seen, man. You know, you get them. And my whole philosophy is if you are constantly proactively looking for experience, it means I can be 25 years old and I can have more experience in a specific field than somebody that's 55 or 53. A beautiful quote that I've tried to live by from Jim Rohn, and he said, life is not just the passing of time. Life is not just the passing of time, but it is a collection of experiences, their intensity, and their frequency. Life is not just the passing of time. Life is a collection of experiences, their intensity, and their frequency. So if you want to have a full life, have as many experiences as possible, make them intense as possible, be conscious when you're in the experience, making yourself intentional, and try to have those experiences that gives you fulfillment as often as possible, as frequent as possible. And what can happen when you start living a life where you wake up every single day to start doing the things that gives you a sense of meaning, and when you do that you get energized from that, Karen, and when you do that you have fulfillment. The only thing between a job and a passion or a purpose is the one you hate and the one you love. Now I'm not saying again?
So your point with this is that be prepared to try different types of things out there.
Be prepared to try different things out there, but also have the self-awareness to know which things gives you that specific feeling. And the only way that you can know how that burger tastes is to eat the burger. No, Franco, I don't like this. It's like, well, have you tasted? No. I just heard it's not nice, mate. No, just have a. No, mate. I'm not. It's looking. I'm not gonna have a taste, mate. No, just have a taste. Just eat it. Taste it. If it's bad, spit it out. Okay. And I am fortunate enough to, at a young age, know what those things are to me. And what I have tried to figure out in the past 7 years that I've been obsessed with the mind and human behavior and is, I would say the number one thing that I've tried to construct was, how can you live a life of meaning and experience meaning? How can you, with a task at hand, with what you have, still experience a sense of meaning, although that specific thing that you're doing is not necessarily the thing that you want to do, or that gives you that absolute feeling of feeling alive? How can you, with what you have, start and live a more meaningful life? So there's something that we haven't even touched the content and there's still a lot. So what I discovered was, what I'm about to tell you guys, this is not in the book. This is not in the manual. This is Franco's guide, template, skeleton, guideline, structure, strategy, whatever you want to call it, to start living a more meaningful life. Okay? Fair enough? So this took me about 7 years to compile in such a small little simple demonstration. Okay? So what I had to understand in my life is a principle called the Pareto principle. Who of you guys have heard about the Pareto principle? Prince's law. The 80-20 distribution. Have you guys heard about that before? The 80-20 distribution? So most of you guys will know it's really simple. It basically states that 20% of the activities that you're doing is delivering or producing 80% of the results. So let's say there is 100 people in a company, only 20% of them, Ernest, is responsible for 80% of the revenue of the company. Okay, 80% of the people there in that company is fluffing around there, only doing about 20% of the work, or producing 20% of the money-making activities. When you're in sales, there's about, like you would know, Ernest, there's about 20% of the activities that gives you the most amount of money. We call them rain-making activities when we do trainings at corporate companies. That's module 2. We call it rain-making activities, moving the needle. You know, we can copy and paste the names from the Excel spreadsheet, get our Excel spreadsheet with all the nice little sums, ifs, and lookups, and VLOOKUPs, and you can type this thing and the whole thing moves and changes colors and everything. But if you do not pick up your phone and make the call, nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So it's important that we start to realize that there are certain things we can start to implement in our lives, and if we identify those certain things or just focus more on those things. Now, if you look at this, if you apply the Pareto principle on the Pareto principle, if you take 20% of 20%, that gives you 4% of 100, right? So think about this. 4% of your activities is responsible for 64% of your results. If you want to apply the Pareto principle to the Pareto principle, you get what I'm saying? 4% of your activities is responsible for 64% of your results. And I have had the opportunity to work with a few people, I'm not going to mention names, but a few people which some of you guys will, most probably all of you guys will know. And I've had the opportunity to interview a lot of people because that was my mission. I wanted to know, you know, how do they think and blah, 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 blah. And still today, that's what I do on my social media channels and so forth. And what I found was, and in the books that I've read, and you guys certainly have found, I would assume this as well, the number one thing that will determine whether you will do what you're doing, getting meaning from that specific thing, is basically focusing all of your time and attention on the things, the 20% of the activities that you need to do. This is now, if we can talk about more financial, reaching financial goals, but as well in any other endeavor, 20% of the activities will produce 80% of the results. So anything that does not produce, so let's say you are worth 500 Rand an hour or 300 Rand an hour, anything that does not produce 300 Rand an hour that you need to do, you need to delegate it, outsource it so that somebody else can do that. And we will talk about that with regards to values. Who of you guys are familiar with Dr. John Demartini? Dr. John Demartini. Now, I had the incredible privilege to interview Dr. John Demartini, and just to tell you how serious he is about this, he hasn't driven a car since he was 23 years old because he does not value driving a car. He doesn't make food for himself because it takes time away from himself to read and to learn.
It's extreme.
Now that is living a life according on your terms. That is living a life to your highest values. Now, he couldn't just do that immediately. He had to work on certain things that will fulfill that value, that will fulfill that value, that will fulfill that value, so that he's now in a position to be able to do that. Most of us like cooking, or I don't know, like most of you, but I hate cooking. Okay, so for me, that is a goal. I mean, if I can even just like really simple. I mean, how many hours do you lose standing in front of the pots and cooking? Now, if you like cooking, once again, that's a different story. If that's therapy for you, that's a different story. But for me, I don't like it. So I'd rather now buy myself pre-made meals that's 500 Rand more a month on my grocery bill, but I have flip it. Let's say an hour, it's 5-7 hours a week more. To pay 500 to 1,000 Rand more. If you're worth 300-400 Rand an hour. So what I want to have happen in your mind in the next day, 7 days, 10 days, and it can take a day, it can take 3 days, is to start to ask yourself, what are the things that you are doing that makes you feel alive? What are the things that gives you energy when you do that? Now, going off track again, going back to this. Well, Karen, to be very honest with you, we tell corporate companies before we do training that there is almost most definitely a chance that one of the people will leave. We tell them, listen here, this is how it is. There's some people that sit here that is not born to do sales, or that's not born to provide your service or product or do that. So we are just telling you that they might leave because that is reality.
And hence, most companies would not pay for this course because they know.
No, actually not that. You know, if you want to get a person out there as soon as possible that does not want to be there.
It's cheap.
Say again?
It is cheaper. It doesn't waste company revenue.
Exactly.
Time.
Exactly. Exactly like you said, Lindy. Where, I mean, if you have a person there that sits there and now they don't want to do that work, I mean, just freedom so that they can do whatever they need to go do, and so that we can get maybe someone in and give them opportunity or whatever the case might be, which falls so beautifully into what you now just said. And this is what I want to go to. Once I realized that everything you do in life is 80% psychology, only 20% skill. And Tony Robbins, you guys are familiar with Tony Robbins, okay, so a big fan. So I heard this from Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins said, everything in life is 80% psychology, 20% skill. And what he means by that is really simple. Somebody can teach you how to do your marketing. Somebody can teach you how to do your finances. Somebody can teach you how to persuade and how to influence, how to do sales. But if you're not inspired to want to learn those skills, then you will not follow through and take action on what needs to be done. It's only so people can teach you those skills, but if your mindset, your psychology is not at a place where you want to learn those things, you're not going to follow through. And what I did was I went into this thing. How can I get the psychology then? If everything in life is 80% psychology, 20% skill, how can I then get the psychology right? And how can I teach people, give them a white label, a template, a guideline, so that they can start thinking in that way to start getting the results that they want? And this is what I want to share with you. Do you guys want to know that?
Yes.
Are you sure you want to know that? You won't get this from any other facilitator except me. So, what I had to realize was the following. And this is also based upon Tony's work. We have specific life conditions. Now I want you guys to please, in your mind right now, we call it your life conditions, your LCs. This represents what we call your reality. What we call your reality. Now, what I want you guys to do at this moment, we have several different life conditions in our life. We've got, the different areas we all know, and like spiritual, financial, health, friends, family. We all know the wheel of life, okay? What are that? If you can think of one area in your life right now that you are really not satisfied with, if you think about it, Karen, you're like, oh, okay. If you can make a sound, it would be like, ugh. Okay? So if you can identify that area right now in your mind, you know exactly what that is. Okay, if you can write that down on a piece of paper or wherever on your notes, it doesn't have to be the full thing. You can just write down one word or 2 words or 3 words, whatever the case might be. So if you can just write that down right now, something that you are not happy with, a life condition in your life. Now, what I want you to write down right now is, the next thing I want you to write down is, how did that picture look like in your mind, like let's say 3 years ago or 5 years ago? How did you expect that picture to look like? There's obviously an incongruence, right? So how did that picture look like? It's obviously not where you thought it should look like. So how did you think it should look like by this stage in your life? This BP is what we call your blueprint. Your blueprint or your expectation. Now I'm going to give you guys a really simple formula that's going to kick depression out of your life for the rest of your life. It's simple, but it's not necessarily always easy. It's simple, but it's not necessarily always easy. You have now identified that life condition, and I'm sure all of you guys, when I said, what is one area in your life right now? Boom, immediately you knew. Okay, you know the things you need to stop doing, or the things you need to start doing, okay, in that specific area. And you know which area that is, right? Now, and then I said, okay, how did you expect that area to look like? What is the blueprint that you had in your mind for it to look like? And you also knew, like, yeah, I thought it's going to look like this. For example, Susan was 16 years old, 14, 18 years old. When she was that age, she thought in her mind when she's going to be 28, 27 years old, 29, whatever the case might be, she's going to be happily married, Citrello, and she's going to have 2 kids, and she's going to have a specific husband that's going to look and care for her in a specific way, and that is the picture she had in her mind. And she's now 28, she's now 31, 32 years old, and now she doesn't even have a boyfriend. So the blueprint, the expectation was by 29, 28, I'm going to have that type of life. The reality, the life condition is I don't even have a boyfriend. The problem comes in what happens if there is what we call a mismatch between the two. If there is a mismatch between the two, okay? Please note the word feel. And you feel, it's just a feeling, and you feel that you can do nothing about that. You feel within your own mind and your own soul, you feel that you can do nothing about the fact that you can change the reality to meet the expectation. And you once again, please note the word feel. You feel that you can do nothing about the situation, and you feel that, ladies and gents, that, my friends, is when depression starts to kick in. Depression and anxiety.
Being defeated.
Say again?
The feeling of being defeated.
The feeling of being defeated.
I normally refer to that. I'm defeated. Yeah.
Very, very true. I like that.
Can I just...
Huh? Oh, yeah, sure. So, it is important to understand, once again, the first step is to understand, hey, I need to identify that reality. The second step is to get that blueprint right. But we're going to chat about that. But let's go back to the feeling. Please note this is just a feeling. Now, Karen, will the sun go down tonight?
Sorry?
Will the sun go down tonight? Will the sun come up tomorrow morning?
Yes.
Will there be an autumn after this, and then a winter, and then a spring, and then a summer? Okay. Oh, interesting. So very often we get, like, if you don't like how that works, like if somebody stands here like, oh, Franco, but I don't like the sun thing going down, eh? Well, brother, I'm not the one to speak to. Don't speak to me. This is how it's always been. Everything in life works in cycles or seasons, okay? And going back to what you said, Ernest, very often we're in a depressive state. There's a difference between being depressed, which is a physiological, psychological imbalance of certain chemicals in the brain, and there's a difference between being in a depressed state. And a state of mind is an ever-changing thing. A state. Okay? Because if a state, a current state, is not a changing entity in and of itself, then we would have summer for the rest of our lives. Okay, the current state of the weather, it's starting to become autumn, it's going to become winter, the temperature is starting to change, starting to drop, and the sun is starting to set a bit earlier every single night, so we have a little bit less vision at about 6 to 7 o'clock, where in summer the state of the vision is that you can see far further. Stupid practical example. But to notice that the word state is an ever-changing thing, so please do not, what happens now is people go, I feel depressed, I go to the doctor is so easy, here's a Prozac, here's also Urbanol, here's a what work all, pop those ones as Xanax, and whatever the case might be, and now you feel better. And now what happens? You use that for about 2 to 3 months. You don't get the same amount of effect from those medication that you thought you're going to get. And now this thing is not working as much as I thought it should. And what happens now, Ernest? Well, the problem must most probably be with me. And what happens? This cycle repeats itself again and again and again, and you get further and further and further trapped. Please note, this is a temporary state. So the 3 things that I have concluded. Yes, I am writing it in reverse order to keep the tension.